So, welcome everybody to the second round of the short and sweet course Fischer Random Chess, where we just dive into some tricks for 960 freestyle or Fischer Random Chess. And I'm of course very happy again that my coach is with me today, because it might get difficult and it's always nice to have someone to give explanations. His name is International Master Balint Natchejesi. And Balint, I practice every day and I hope to one day get your name right. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, and I always have a fun when you are pronouncing my name. So I'm ready, of course, and I am excited to have to spend some chess time with you.
Righty, sounds great. Then we just start by going over the course, what it is, so the newcomers will know. And I was wondering if I should be really cool, like all the famous YouTubers. They always say, and you have a link to part 1 here. So they usually point to a corner where they later on put that link in. So maybe that works, and we see if I can get this done after the stream. Okay, so I just go into the page here, and it is by Wesley So and Chessable. Grandmaster Wesley So is one of my favorite super grandmasters, and he just has a very nice way to explain things, I think, and talk in general. It's at least to me. So this free course, we have him as our instructor. And we have video, so we are going to see Wesley So with us, and he was the first Fischer Random Chess World Champion, and I think that took place in 2019. So this is an excerpt of the full course, so if you like what you see, of course, go to Chessable and see the full course. We just, in part 1, had the castling rules, and I have to admit, I understand it, but when I play, I kind of still do mistakes. So this cannot be stressed enough. Learn the castling rules if you'd like to play that. Okay, and one of the highlights I was reading is his commentary on Game 3 of the 2019 Fischer Random World Championship. So I'm, of course, looking forward to that. And of course, the usual stuff. So last time we found out that there is no opening, more or less, and it's right into tactics. So the normal rules apply. It's center control and tactics, tactics, tactics. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And so we are good to go. And why did I choose the course? Maybe you're interested to hear that too, because there is this new Grand Slam freestyle, not tournament, but what is it called in English? They have 5 tournaments around the world. It's called Freestyle Chess. It's led by Jan-Hendrik Büttner, who is also the main sponsor, I think. They had one test event in February this year, then another test event right before the World Championships, and then they announced the tour. Yes, a tour. Okay, so culminating as a World Championship for freestyle chess. So this is very exciting, and as I'm struggling with opening theory, of course, it could be nice to play some 960, or as it's called, Fischer Random or freestyle chess once in a while. Okay, so you now know what this course is about, and if you follow us for our Chessable sessions, you also know that once we are in part 2, we have to do the review. So Chessable offers a MoveTrainer system, and it's also called spaced repetition. So what's happening there? You are presented with positions, puzzles, and you need to give the right move, of course. And if you do it wrong, in the next review, you get it immediately. If you get something right, it will be put down in the stacks of puzzles and will not be presented that often to you. So this is a nice way to, of course, get the stuff into your head. And we are going to start with that from part 2. I don't think it's a lot of reviews here. It is 2 reviews, and that should be done easily. So, as I have some kind of a new setup in OBS for you, I need to take a look if everything is okay. We have nice frames now around us, and that all looks good. I can see everything, so yeah, this should be working, and we can start. Okay. So here we had the introduction and the castling, and here we have quiz white to play, and basically I forgot what white played, and I think it was d4 to open up the bishop and the queen and get center control. We'll see. And it was an alternative move, which says it's not wrong, it's just not something that was put in as totally perfect. They have to choose one move that is the correct one, and the other one maybe e4, c4, maybe c4, I don't know, I don't remember, so I just try. Incorrect, and I'm so stupid. It says castling, and here I have a chance to castle already. Yes, that was the move. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so I have to do the castling here, and of course. So next variation will be the queenside castle. How can black castle? So we have 2 pieces in between for the kingside castling, but the queenside castling is still alright. And we have to put the king on the original square of the normal castling. So this is my question that I always have. If I go to f1 with the king now, is it just a king move, or will it do the castling? So in
That is just king move, yeah.
Yeah. So in fear of doing the normal castling, I always put it to h1 and hope that the system will notice, oh, this should be a castling. So I put the king to h1 and we see what happens. Nope. So I put the king on the rook, and that does the trick. So if I would have put it to f1, it would have been just a normal rook move without the castling. Okay, so those were the 2 reviews that we had to do. It was about castling, I forgot, sorry, in the beginning, and exit, and we can go right into the game. So I click on, and as always, if you have questions, don't hesitate to just let us know in chat. So it's learn. And again, I check on OBS if you can see everything quite all right. Yes, the text is a little bit hidden, but I will scroll, of course, so that everything can be seen all right. And with that, we just start. So here I think we have a video right away. And if you are okay with it, Barlind, we just dive straight into the video.
Okay, of course, Jan.
Okay, nice. So I also check on OBS if the sound is on for the video. And let's go. Let's see what Wesley has to tell us about this game.
c4 from its outpost. And in fact, knight bd4 looks very simple. But I played the move a4. a4 is a good move also.
Okay, he's already in.
But we still use a time control of 45 minutes per player. plus an additional 15 minutes after move 40 with no increment. So at this point, I was leading by 1 game, and in the third game, the following position was drawn. It looks like at first to be a very peculiar position because the white king is far deep inside the queen side, and there are no less than 5 pieces blocking its way if he ever wants to castle king side to g1. So he has to move 5 pieces away from the back rank before he is able to castle. And the king feels a little bit vulnerable being so far away from the queen. It's true, all the squares in front of the white king is protected for the time being. However, he doesn't feel as safe as in other starting positions because the white queen is so far away. Other than that, the other pieces are pretty much in regular starting positions. The difference being with the bishops here in the center. So it's not clear exactly which direction they should go. But let's get to the game.
Okay, so before Wesley gets into the game, Balint, I have a question for you. I would like you to know what I usually do when I start a 960 game. I try to find out at my opponent, is a pawn not protected? And if I see a pawn that is not protected, I usually try to attack it somehow. And I, in the past, never took really a look at center control, but I learned that, of course, and will probably do this too. So, and I also notice now that I didn't pay too much attention about my own pieces. I was only looking at the opponent's pieces. Yeah, so that's probably also needs to be taken into consideration. Yeah, so basically that's what I do. And of course, piece activation, like if the bishops are behind the pawns, I just let them out more or less. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think in these positions, center is important, king safeness is also important, and like in chess, regular chess, do something with all of your pieces. So middle game story. At the beginning, just make an evaluation about the king, hold the central squares, and try to improve your pieces. That small vulnerability with not protected pawn or something like that, it's, you are also suffering from the same situation. I think general tips with the king, central square, and how to give some useful purpose for the future all of all of your pieces, or some plan to attack him to be faster on specific wing, queen or king wing.
Mm-hmm. And one more question here. So if I would like to castle queenside here, would I need to get the knight on c1 and the bishop on d1 out of the way, and then just go with the king on the rook? And would it then castle by putting the king to d1 and the rook to c1?
According to first rule I wrote, I read that at the beginning, the point is you should end up in the regular castle, long side or short side. Basically, we need to have a free space between the king and the rook. So you must paint and project how that castle works, and king has to be on c1 and rook probably rook on d1 for the long castle situation.
Yeah, so those
Also,
squares need to be free too.
exactly, and then you'll end up with. Then I believe you just need technically to click to take your king and click on the rook, and he'll may immediately transfer them on c1 and d1.
Okay.
I think that that is the rule, because he said we need to have only two tips to have a king between rooks, to have a possibility to make a castle, regular castle, and to have a different color bishops. That's the point.
Yes.
Different square bishop, so light square
Yeah.
and dark square bishop.
Okay. Good. Then all my questions are answered. Thank you, Balint, and I guess we'll continue with the video. All right.
Let's go.
So here, I played the move e2, e4, which in my view is the best move in the position. And I'll talk about this in the next game as well when I have black. But in my view, e4 is the best move to fight for an advantage. And the explanation being is that e4 is the best move lies in the placement of the bishops. E4 activates two diagonal pieces with one move. It activates the bishop, then activates the queen. They're both functioning well now. And white gets the e2 square available for further use also, for the queen or for the knight. So I really like the move e4. Next move, white can play f4. The advantage being that the f pawn is protected by the queen. So in my view, e4 is the most ambitious move. But I'll also take a look at other moves as well. The other logical move here is the move d4. Obviously, white threatens to play e4 next move. And if white's opponent doesn't do anything, white will play e4 or knight d3, firmly controlling the dark squares in the center. But the reason I didn't play d4 and also why none of the other players played this move is I think after d5, black gets a very solid, stable position also. So after d4, d5, knight d3, knight d6, or the move e6, developing pieces, but knight d6, knight f3, and e6. I think here both sides have a very solid position, but it's not so simple for white to fight for an advantage or anything concrete. The queen on f1 is badly placed, and white doesn't have any pawn breaks anymore. So I believe none of the players played d4 in the first move. White can also play f4, and this is fine also. This looks like a bird's opening. The queen on f1 is protecting the pawn on f4. But after f4, black will probably play d5, controlling the e4 square. The only negative thing about playing f4 is there is some slight discomfort about the development of white's bishop on d1. Yeah, here it's not so easy to put this bishop into a good place. And after following moves knight f3, e6, d3, and c5, we have a very complex game. And both sides have chances. And the other possible move here is the move after c4, e5. Black controls the d4 square and controls the dark square. And the knight on c1 doesn't have an ideal place to go. I mean, sure, it can go to knight to b3 and play knight b3, but here in this position with a knight on b3, black always has the possibility to play a5, threatening a4, kicking away the white knight. And if white plays a move like e3, black has many possibilities here. He can play knight g7 with the idea to play d5 next move. Black can also play f6, threatening to give a check here on g6, just slightly annoying the white king. You don't want your king to get vulnerable so early the stage of the game. So I played the move e4. I like this move. I think this is the best move, and this was also Fabiano's choice and Ian Nepomniachtchi's choice. So e4. Magnus played e6. It's a little bit unexpected. I was expecting him to play the move e5. Although black has many different moves here. I can play e5. He can play knight f6. He can play c5, or he can play d6. But e5 is what I mostly expected. And moves like this always has to be taken into account because black maintains symmetry. He controls his fair share of space on the center. And black prepares to develop also. Activates the bishop, activates the queen. Here, though, I was going to play f4, which looks like a king's gambit, except it's not really a gambit in this case, because the white queen is defending the pawn on f4. So after e takes f4, queen takes f4, white's position seems to be a little bit more harmonious, in my view. And the queen is very active here on f4. And white has no decent way to take advantage of. Black has no decent way to harass my queen at this point. But Magnus played the move e6, going for a French defense pawn structure. So I quickly played d4. If your opponent gives you the chance to occupy the center with pawns or pieces, then why not, right? Makes sense to grab it. Instead of d4, also possible was f4, controlling the dark squares. And then after d5 to push e5, gaining space. I'm sure white has other possible moves here also, but this makes sense. After c5, white plays knight f3. And later on, bishop f2. Just controlling the dark squares.
I'm sorry, Jan,
and controlling
to interrupt
the
this
center, controlling this very important
French defense. We mentioned that last time, right?
Yes, this is basically a replay from last week, but I think for me it's still okay because it kind of got forgotten. Yeah, so.
Okay, of course. Let's continue.
All right.
d4. So white has some space advantage on the king side. I played d4. Magnus played d5, aiming for the French defense. And I quickly played the e5 here, gaining space, deciding to go for the French advanced pawn structure. Because compared to the French defense, here my knight is on c1, and I cannot defend e4 with a knight. It takes 2 moves for my knight to get to c3. So I played the move e5. Here Magnus played c5, which really surprised me. It's the most natural move, but in this position, in fact, even though it looks logical, it's already an error. Black has better ways to play. I would prefer the move here, knight b6, or amongst others. The idea of knight b6 is to control the squares c4 and a4, control the light squares here, developing the knight also. And it brings black one step closer towards castling and safeguarding his king, right? So knight b6 makes sense here. Controlling some space and developing the pieces. Knight g7 also makes sense to bring the knight closer to activity. But I was expecting actually the move f7, f6 here on move 3. Fighting for control over the e5 square. So this makes sense actually. f6. Black's bishop on e8 can be activated through g6, controlling some squares. So this would have been better for black to play. I was going to play knight f3, knight g7, and then knight d3 or queen e2, with the idea to develop the pieces. But both sides have their play here. White's probably just a very little bit better. At Magnus played c5, I think this was a mistake. So I took on c5 right away, making use of the fact that black cannot take on c5 with his bishop. Compared to a normal French defense, here there are some differences that make black's life uncomfortable. First of all, in the French defense, the bishop is on f8, so black could take on c5 with the bishop instead of the queen. But here black doesn't have that option.
And why Wesley was saying that compared to the normal French defense or opening, I have my very limited opening knowledge, but somehow I'm in auto mode and just tend to try to play what I learned. And this is also a typical field for mistakes in the beginning for me, Barlind. Yeah, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that is lack of experience how to build your pawn structure in the center, and where that lead you, and which type of position you'll have after that. So yeah, that is in these situations chess experience helps. In some other situation, experience could be, with reverse story in bad direction, because you cannot improvise something new or create or something, because you are following the standard typical patterns you have you already have from the past. So in these positions, I believe the best decisions must be made about that, how to build the central squares, central pawn chains, and what you'll do later with your pieces, and is your king safe enough. That's it. And once when you take advantage, I believe, or if you have better plan, or the opponent forgot about some one or even two pieces, that is the case where you can be better and where you have a advantage from the opening.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. He said usually bishop goes there, and now with that c5, basically, if you don't push c5 and if you allow knight d3 and bishop b4, white just building whole his plan about that c5 square, and that is enormous domination on the queen side. So you can If you build that structure with a knight d3, bishop b4, to completely take control over c5 square, later you can push a4, a5, even bigger pressure, making even bigger pressure on the king. So that completely define the opening. And now, as you can see with c5, black king is also open. If he take with a queen, bishop e3, another tempi, knight d3, that tempi story, and taking some time from the opponent works in every version of chess. That is really useful. Yeah.
Very, very valuable for me because I still need to get all that into my head, and it's a lot. It doesn't seem to like that, but there are several things to keep in mind when playing. Yes, and
Many I don't know how to compare some initiative from chess to, I don't know, some other spheres in life. I like sports, so basically that is some kind of momentum. Some players in football or basketball get excited, and they are not missing playing, making all the time very good decision, and that happens during some period, 2 3 5 minutes, and then you cannot imagine how you can fast make some serious advantage and bring something very very good on the board. The same on the chess. With the bishop e3 you don't see maybe immediately what is the plan, but obviously, or bishop e3, I'm sorry, I'm all the time speaking. Knight d3 is one tempi, and bishop b4 another one. So exposing that diagonal, and look at his king c5. With c5 the black king is slightly open. Maybe after a few moves we'll trade the black bishops, and who's gonna protect that weakened squares? So still questionable, and probably you'll be that you can be really fast with a castle. Knight d3, bishop, I don't know, somewhere, or f4, bishop f3, and castle gives you another plus, because as we can see, d file is semi-open for white. Usually that happens in Sicilian, right? e4, c5, knight f3, something, and d4. With the cd4, knight d4, we have semi-open d file. So that is in that situations very very useful way to make a castle on long side, bringing your rook immediately on the central semi-open d file.
Alrighty, so yeah, thank you, Balint, and shout out to Midnight. He just wrote, "I blame credit myself with you diving into 960, Jan." So yes, I remember not so long ago he told me, "Well, Jan, come and join a tournament." And I think we played a 960 tournament, and I got somehow slaughtered by the better players, but I had tremendous fun, and I of course enjoyed playing in a tournament with Midnight. So that was very nice. So Midnight, please continuing pushing me into that direction. That would be of course nice. All right. So we just continue and see what Wesley So has to say.
Secondly, his knight is on c8. So the normal square for the knight on the French is on c6, from which it would control the squares d4 and attack e5. But here, it takes black much longer to get there. Has to play knight e7 first, and then knight c6. Meanwhile, white's knight is on c1 instead of b1. So after queen takes c5, my knight could jump right away to d3 or b3. I played knight b3, attacking his queen and gaining valuable development time. So this is the difference. Black now has to spend 1 or 2 moves moving his queen to put it on a safe square. So in the game, after queen c7, f4, white already just keeps developing his pieces gaining some squares on f4 and e5, and the knight controls a d4 square. So here, I was already quite pleased with my position. I believe white has a strategic advantage, and there's not much risk in my opening choice. But let's look at the game. Magnus played knight b6, keeping an eye on c4 and a4, and threatening to play knight c4 next move, activating the knight. I played the move bishop e2, keeping an eye on knight c4 jumps. There was also nothing wrong with knight f3. And if knight c4, just don't play the move bishop e2. Because if bishop e2, there's knight e3. Threatening the queen on f1. And also threatening checkmate. So all good. But I played the move bishop e2. So Magnus played knight e7 here, developing the rest of his kingside pieces. This knight wants to come to f5, while the other knight wants to come to c4. So black is trying to create some counterplay, but white's control over the dark squares and on the center, especially the d4 square after knight f3, is just too dominant, and controls all black's counterplay. He played knight c4, and I played bishop d3, but knight bd4 is equally strong. Yeah. So, but I played bishop d3, just making sure to keep this pawn on c2 well defended. Black was threatening to win material by playing knight e3, attacking the queen and threatening checkmate also. So that's why I played bishop d3, protecting c2, keeping an eye on f5. If he plays knight f5, I can chop that off anytime. So black played knight c8. Magnus hopes to attack this crucial pawn here on b2 by activating his other knight. So his knight is gonna do some acrobatics in the next few moves. He wants to play knight b6 and knight a4, attacking this crucial pawn here on b2. But white has a lot of time, and white can meet the threat on this pawn well in advance. Yeah, here white has a lot of good moves actually. Knight bd4 is possible, with the idea to play b3 and kick this knight on c4 from its outpost. And in fact, knight bd4 looks very simple. But I played the move a4. a4 is a good move also. I believe it's the simplest move. So a4 is a typical move here, and it has a lot of good ideas. Advancing the rook pawn. First of all, white wants to gain space. White wants to grab as much space on the queen side. Wants to play a5, controlling the dark squares, taking away the b6 square from black. This rook pawn is supported by the rook on a1, and on a5 it'll be supported by the knight on b3 and the bishop on e1. So it's a very good multi-purpose move. If black tries to prevent this a pawn from pushing by playing a5, white can play knight bd4. Now white has b5 firmly under its control, and after knight b6, b3, this knight on c4 is trapped, as white controls the a3 square also. So knight a3 here can just be met by rook takes a3. So a4, black played knight b6, and I played a5, continuing my plan. a5 is a fine move, gaining a lot of space, but there's even a better move here for white, which I didn't consider during the game because it looks quite dangerous. But in fact, white is just close to winning. So instead of a5,
I didn't have my microphone on. I'm sorry. I have to repeat everything. So I put it into short. Sorry, Wesley, for interrupting here. So my question is, so far I had a maximum time setting for my 960 games of 5+3. And I always felt it's too short to really get into the position. And so, Balint, what would be your recommendation? Enjoy having the fun and playing worse games, or just doing longer time control and really getting into it?
Longer time control and really get it into it will be my choice. I don't know, blitz game. Maybe we can. Maybe I don't know the rules completely. Rules about that time control and how to manage to set up this. This was okay. 45 minutes plus 15 seconds. I believe they play with that time. But actually, I'm thinking about that. Maybe we can take I don't know, maybe 10 minutes before we start with the first move. So just to have some plan, to build some plan in that first 10 minutes, just to wait after that position, after random computer mix the pieces, and when we set up the starting position, maybe in that moment for both players could be useful to take, I don't know, 10-15 minutes before we start first move. Then this tempi, I don't know, 40 or 30 plus 15 or 30 plus 10, it's okay. Not too fast, not so slow. That's the point. If you play blitz games, here we saw that last time, you cannot make a deeper plan, and we are just moving approximately like in some bullet game, very fast and uncontrolled completely.
Yes.
So maybe just preparation time to see what, as he said, f4 doesn't work, c4 doesn't work, okay, I'll play d4. But that is not enough. If you start the time, then you are wasting, I don't know, 5, 7, 10 minutes. I believe you should consider what to do as a white, of course.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I expected that, of course. Yes, so that's good.
As you know, my logic about regular chess.
Yes.
Take 2 queens, but on a really, really give the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
We continue. Thank you.
let's continue.
White can play something else. As you can see, black is threatening to take this pawn on a4. And black has 2 pieces attacking it, while white only has 1 defender. So black is threatening to grab this a pawn. However, instead of defending it, white can simply play knight bd4, centralizing this knight, controlling a lot of squares. This knight is very dominant here on d4. And if black takes this pawn on a4, with either with the bishop or the knight, let's say it takes with the knight, white has to move b3, forking both knights, winning a piece, and ensuring that black won't have enough compensation for the lost material. Black's problem is that the white's king...
Short question. I mean, he's a grandmaster. He will know what he's saying. But isn't the weakened king position the compensation for the lost material?
I'm sorry, Jan. Can you
So,
can you repeat the question?
yes,
Sorry.
Wesley was just saying that if black loses material here, he wouldn't have compensation. Yeah, so here my idea is the white king, of course, would be really vulnerable. Yeah, and isn't that the weakened king position enough compensation for the lost material?
At this moment, Jan, when black took the pawn on a4, you can see literally every white piece works. You know, knight on d4 developed, knight on f3, it's okay, insurance for the second knight. Both bishops had the open diagonals. Rook on a1 has the purpose. And also king is not exposed. King has a idea to make a castle at the end. So you cannot catch him. It's really tough to catch him. I was distracted with my thoughts, and that is the reason I didn't understand you well that question. I was wondering what happens if black just picks something like queen b6 to pin that pawn, but I believe white can just play the move king c1. Unpinning his pawn on b3, and next move literally one knight goes down. The knights are protected, and I spoke about this position. I mentioned the white pieces and development because you have 5 very active pieces. And if we compare that with the black pieces, probably just bishop on e8 has some purpose to protect the knight. Everything else is, very badly spotted. So no time. You will recover your bad situation around the king. No time. That is the tempi. That is the tempo. That is the reason why tempo is important in these moments. You have 2 or 3 tempi up with the white pieces.
Oh, all right. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
King is very safe. His pieces are surrounding his king. There are a lot of defenders. There's this rook. There's this knight on d4. There's this bishops. They just control all the squares around white's king. And black doesn't even have a hint of an attack. So after b3, white is simply just winning because all the squares are defended. Knight c3 check is not possible because the bishop is guarding the square. And black is just dead lost. So after knight bd4, black will lose a piece for insufficient compensation. For instance, if bishop takes a4, white plays b3. Say the bishop goes back, b takes c4, d takes c4. Now white can simply play the move bishop e4. White is a piece up. Black doesn't have an attack. And white controls all the squares close to his king. So white is simply just should be winning here. I played the move a5, continuing with the plan of gaining space, but my follow-up was not correct. And so I played a5. Magnus played knight a4. Obviously going back doesn't make sense because the knight just got here. So he played knight a4. And here again I made a bad decision. I took on c4 with the bishop. But the problem with taking on c4 is black takes back on c4 with the queen. And he gets to trade queens and escape to an endgame. He wants to take on f1. And he's also threatening to take the pawn on f4. So black escapes into a slightly worse endgame. But instead of taking on c4, white could simply just defend his crucial point on b2 and simply play rook a2, which is a very nice move. Simply defending b2. And black's knights on c4 and a4, they do look very threatening, but at the same time they don't have any retreat squares. d6 is protected, b6 is protected by my pawn, so these knights are actually cut off and they don't have anywhere to retreat. And if black plays normally, if plays normal development with bishop e7, activating his bishop and hoping to castle, white can play knight bd4. Again, centralizing the knight, controlling the dark squares. And black is busted here because b3 is a threat, forking both knights a4 and c4. And if black takes his pawn on a5, let's say knight takes a5, white has bishop b5. And this knight on a4 is hanging. This knight on a5 is also hanging. So black loses a piece. Yeah, so after rook a2, bishop e7, knight bd4, black has absolutely no defense. If he plays knight c5, then white can simply take on c4, or white can also play the move b3. And again, this knight on c4 has nowhere really to run. Knight e3, queen e2, and this knight on e3 has no good place to go. And white is simply dominating. The knights on d4 and f3 are just very powerfully placed. But I played bishop takes c4. It's a mistake and it throws away a large part of my advantage. And after queen takes c4, I think I made a small inaccuracy here. I took on c4, but this opens the d file, and this gives away the square d5 for use of black's pieces later on. So instead of queen takes c4, I think I should just have played the move knight bd4 here, threatening to play b3. And black should probably take on f1, exchanging queen. Rook takes f1. And this endgame is better for white. And you might ask why? Why is white better?
Yes, my question.
Well, first of all, white has a space advantage. His pawns on e5 and f5 are way past the borderline.
Yeah, of course.
They're past the 4th rank, they're on the 5th rank. They gain a lot of space. White has more space than his opponent. This knight on d4 is well placed, controls a lot of squares. And that knight is supported by its colleague on f3. And white also has better control over the dark squares. For instance, if knight c5, he can play bishop b4, pressurizing the knight. And then the idea also to play f5 next move to open up the f file and gain even more space if there. So after knight bd4, queen f1, rook f1, I believe that white has a clear advantage in the endgame. This is a very good.
Hey Jan, do you have some questions? You mentioned something.
Similar to the French.
No, he was just explaining. My question would have been like, why is white so much better? And then he started explaining right away.
More active pieces probably.
But I
Reason
noticed.
and also look at this rook. Somehow we have a very nice book that Game Changer, and that explains some ideas. And I probably also tell you some in our session that options to push your pawn, side pawn, A or H pawn, to activate your rook. In this strange way, white rook is really active, and black needs to remove the dark square bishop if he wants to make a castle, but basically that rook on d8 doesn't have bigger purpose or bigger function on d8 or a8. Basically he is completely out of game. And this rook makes from on a1 makes a pressure on the knight, and also some rook lift, really easy and very nice maneuver. The other plan, I don't know, could be connected with something like g4 f5, as so mentioned that knight is on d4 is really nice. Wesley, as Wesley mentioned, knight on d4 is super strong and controls very important central squares. That is, in my opinion, reason why he's in driver's seat.
Yes, right. And Balint, this is to me super funny because I can relate to black positions because usually I don't develop and am looking so bad. And
after Scandinavian bishop stays at the beginning, queens goes everywhere on the board. So
alrighty, okay. So we continue and see what Wesley has to say.
Yeah, of course.
And black is sort of in a bind here. Bishop d7, bishop b4. But I played queen takes c4. And here it's a bit different. So that's why you have to be careful with pawn structures in the endgame. Having the pawn on c4 instead of d5 completely changes the nature of the position. Now the d file is open. After bishop e7, black can castle long, bring this rook to the d file. Now the d file is open. Black can use the d5 square for his pieces very quickly, and and black is developing counterplay very quickly. And this pawn on c4 prevents me from playing b3. I mean, it doesn't prevent me, but if I play b3, he would take, exchanging a pair of pawns and opening the c file also. So I pretty much lost most of my advantage by this point, which was big just 4 or 5 moves ago. But I played bishop h4, getting rid of his bishop pair. Black, I'm forcing him to trade bishops. And also because he just moved his bishop from d8 to e7 one move earlier, I decided to play bishop h4, because after he takes on h4, knight takes h4, he has lost some time moving the bishop to e7 and then taking. So it's a typical small trick to force your opponent's piece to move first before offering a trade and then just forcing your opponent to lose some time. Black castled long, bringing this rook into play. Knight f3, rook d5. I played b3 because black was threatening to take my pawn on a5. White probably has better options here, such as the move c3, securing the square d4 for my knight. But it's quite complex. It includes the sacrifice of a pawn. Now the computer gives knight d2, b5, knight e4, followed by knight d6. But this the variation is quite complex. His pieces are stuck on the a file for the time being. So this is still better for white, but in the game I played simply. I played b3, c takes b3, c takes b3, knight c5, and I think this position is very balanced at this point. The rook on d5 is well placed, and white's pawns on the queen side, and this pawn on f4 requires constant defending. So I believe by now black has pretty much solved all of his opening problems. Keep in mind that white can still castle. His king and his rook has not moved yet in the game. So in fact, white could castle either way. Could castle long, could castle short. And I thought about castling short because the king is very safe here. But I decided not to castle, because if you castle short, the king moves from b1 to g1, traveling in a lot of squares. If you castle short, later on the white king will have...
Valent, I'm kind of awkward sometimes, but here I always try to find fun in positions in the chessboard, also in life. So here I find it tremendously funny that he's castling short and then has 5 squares to go for castling short. Just, yeah. I guess you get it.
Yeah, castle is every time really funny move. Strange move beside the en passant in only 2 strange move in chess. And yes, this seems whoa, what a jump with the king, but
but it was called short.
I'm sorry.
And it was called short because that's a short castle.
Short castle. Short castle with a 6 square jump.
Yes.
I also read a book, and later they after that options, I think that there was additional rule about how to make a castle. Because very specific way could be open for some castle. If you move your e pawn, imagine if you move your e pawn and made a rook on e8 rook on e8 square. So under promotion, and you promote the rook on e8. Basically, if the e file is open, you can move your king and you can make a salto with the rook, right? That was the last option. And basically they in the rules, I believe in the regular chess rules for today, they add that story. The king goes 2 squares left or right, and rook goes a step beside him. So that castle, for example, from e1 to e8 could be possible with the king e3 and king e3 and rook e1,
Okay.
rook e2 or something like that, you know. So they just add that small hint and small rule. You cannot jump with your rook like that or something like. But here we have a case where the king goes so long in his short castle. Yeah, as you said.
Yeah. Okay, and I also
Strange.
noticed, and I also noticed that Wesley was always putting the king on the rook to make the computer
Yeah.
do the castle. Okay.
Exactly, that is what I told you last time you had a problem with that castle because you are bringing the king on the square where he need to be, just space between the king and rook, and take your king first of course and hit the rook, and program immediately makes a regular short or long castle.
Yes. And Balint, we have a special guest aboard, and that is Cross Online. He just followed, so thank you for the follow, Cross. And Cross is a fellow dojo student. I cannot say student. He is a full-time chess coach, and is also helping me a little about the Bug House earlier on, and now Crazy House. So welcome, Cross Online. Really nice having you, of course.
Welcome.
Okay. Okay, so Cross meet Balint, Balint meet Cross. Okay, so we just continue with the info by Wesley.
Have to slowly
Yeah, of
move
course.
its way back to the center. King f2, king e3. The king is a very important fighting piece in the endgame. And once the queens are exchanged and many pieces are exchanged, the king becomes an important force. It helps to defend pawns, defend pieces, and attack pawns. So I thought if I castled, then I would sooner or later play king f2 and king e3 anyway. And so why not play king c2 right away? So the king can defend some squares here on the queen side. That makes some sense, although the engine really likes castling short. But I played king c2, and here Magnus played bishop d7, finishing up his development and activating this last rook on h8. But he has a very powerful alternative here. After king c2, he could have played the move f7, f6. And this looks more scary for white. Black wants to give a check here on g6, taking advantage of the fact that the white king is in the open, it's quite vulnerable. Check on g6, controlling some light squares. So I was, this is probably a more active option for black. His pieces come into the game very quickly and with checks. But he played bishop d7, it's also fine, just slow but sure. Now he's ready to activate this rook on h8. I played b4, kicking his knight away to a more passive square and also protecting the a5 pawn. Played knight a6, and now I played king b3. Now my king is at least defending some crucial pawns and crucial squares. So I was quite pleased that I didn't castle. But in the next few moves, I have to be careful because after rook d8, doubling the rooks, there is some pressure along the d file. And if he moves the bishop away, he will have two attackers attacking my knight on d4. So I have to watch out and make sure that this defense of the knight holds. I played rook c1 check, king b8, rook c4, defending the knight on d4. Perhaps I didn't play the best moves here. I'm thinking now that
Sorry for interrupting again, Wesley. It's amazing when he said, I need to make sure to defend the knight on d4. I, of course, didn't have time to really think about it, but I would have never thought about check and lifting it to c4. It would have also always been like h1 to d1. So this is another testament to my limited tactical knowledge, I guess. Okay, but it's a learning journey.
Yeah, it's a learning journey, so do not worry about that.
Yeah.
instead of rook hg1, perhaps better is
Okay.
the move rook d1, bishop e8, then rook d2, doubling rooks on the d file, and protecting this knight on d4. And this rook on d2 is also protected by the f3 knight.
And by the way, Balint, and this finally now looks like a normal regular game, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is a middle game and some end game with standard story. White could expect some initiative because better king. Black can black hope could be connected with bishop knight difference. So bishop is usually better in this open center position with with the pawns on two different wings. Basically, as he said, it's around equal, and both sides need to be careful to not mess something, and probably something drawish. Yeah, and basically this is the chess position completely.
Okay.
So white can actually move his knight back later on and trade the heavy pieces along the d file. So I'm thinking now, instead of what I played with rook hg1, it's probably more accurate to play rook d1 with the idea rook d2 and rook d1, doubling rooks on the d file also. And I believe white shouldn't have any problems in the endgame in this case. But in the game I played rook c1 check, king b8, rook c4. And instead of doubling rooks on the d file, I decided to double rooks on the other open file, which is the c file. So I just let black dominate on the d file while I grab the c file. And I'm hoping that this solid blockade on d4 will hold. But now Magnus played bishop e8, rook c1. Yeah, played h6, having some ideas to play g5 and break through. Because my knight on f3 is stuck right now, defending this his colleague on d4. So if black plays g5, I wouldn't be able to recapture with the knight on g5 later on. So for that reason, I played h4. Just a solid practical move, preventing black from playing g5 and maintaining the stability of my knights. Here, the endgame is probably slightly better for black or very close to equal. Yeah, I believe black should have no problems holding, but white should have little problems holding a draw also, if plays accurately.
And Balint, I have more questions, of course. So, as he says, probably he said the endgame looks probably better for. So what I notice is that I have this limited endgame knowledge, and I never know, is an endgame better or not for me, especially if there is material balance. So when do you think can I expect to really get an understanding of when an endgame is better for me or not? So it's just extensive endgame theory learning, or how does it work?
You know, when you lose over between 50 and 100 over the board games in this type of end games, you'll learn that.
Okay,
So
that's very...
so in 2 or 3 years, if you give your best, then after 3 years you'll completely understand this one because you lost several times as a black, or you won with the white pieces, and you had something similar in, as I said, minimum 10-15 games over the board games, really tough games when you are struggle before, and then you get in some position like this, then you'll realize who is faster or who is stronger in these positions. White have a space advantage, better king, control over the c file, and this h4 was a really fancy move to stop g5. That is the last breakthrough on the king side, and as you can see, the more active white pieces gives the white some serious advantage. Of course, if we late mess up something, or just one rook trade for black could be enough to reduce that pressure on the c file, and basically later to have a better piece, that is a bishop, if we compare him at the end against the knight. So small differences. Something similar we have in Berlin opening. You immediately trade your queens. Black has ruined pawn structure on the queen side and bishop pair, and white have 4 against 3 on the queen side, and that is eternal fight. Yin yang story, who knows, it's questionable, depends from just 1-2 tempi, and that's it. In this case, for now, obviously white has a better king, better pieces spotted into the center, and also black has some struggles with his knight on a6 and pointless double rooks on the d file. So if black managed to trade just one rook, he'll reduce that pressure on the c file. Also imagine he cannot play rook, for example, in this position, rook d7, rook 8 d7, lead in rook c8 checkmate directly. So some problems about that king pressure. The pressure on his king gives the white for us better hope, gives hope to win this end game. Also, white have a more space to reorganize his pieces, and more space even on the king side. So will you push h5, g4, g5, or will you go with g4, g5? You have some choices for black. After this h4, that choice is reduced, and his main he's occupied about that, how to reduce the pressure into the center, or how to trade one of his rooks. Let's see what we can what we'll have in this very interesting end game. But yeah, as I said, you'll learn, Jan. In 3 years, you're ready.
Oh, and Valid, that makes me regret that I didn't really push through with studying chess. So I'm still a chess baby, and basically I'm learning seriously for only a year now. Yeah, so I hope hope is on the horizon somewhere. Okay.
So your regrets are connected with that you didn't start this 3 years before, right?
Yes, absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay, just wait 3 years and you'll know that. Patient, Jan.
I will. Okay.
But here Magnus
Okay.
played an unnecessary mistake. He played the move on move 26 b5, which I think is a bad move. It lets white escape out of the little mess that I got myself into. Because after b5, now I don't have to take a takes b6 and go en passant. So instead of b5, black should have played b6. Slowly but surely. Now he's threatening to take my pawn on a5. And if I trade pawns, a takes b6, a takes b6. Black still has this important square on b5 that he can use for his pieces. Next, black wants to play king b7 and then slowly but surely activate his pieces. Probably later on knight c7, knight b5. Because here he still has the b5 square for use of his pieces. The bishop can come to b5, for instance. But in the game, inexplicably, Magnus plays b5. Now the square b5 is no longer available for black's use. And I played not a takes b6, but I played the move rook 4 c2. A very good move. Now I can safely retreat my rook. And you can ask, what about this knight on d4? Isn't it hanging? Black can take the knight on d4, but he loses material in that case actually. Because after rook takes d4, knight takes d4, rook takes d4, his king is on the back rank, and his bishop is also on the back rank. So white has rook c8 check, checking the black king and grabbing this bishop on e8. So white actually wins material in this case. So that is what makes rook c2 possible. And all this would not be possible if the black king were on b7. But after b5, rook c2, after he played king b7, now he's threatening to take the knight. White plays rook d2, firmly protecting the knight on d4. And now after knight b8, I played rook d1. Now d4 is firmly protected, and black no longer has pressure over on the d file because my rooks are also double on the d file, countering the position of his rooks. Yeah, here even though the material is limited, I believe that white has a stable advantage because as a consequence of his move b5, now his bishop has very limited squares. His bishop cannot go to b5 anymore. And if you picture this position, if you look at this position and all the major pieces are traded, if all the rooks are traded, just picture this position without the rooks on d1, d2, and d5, d8. If you picture this endgame without the rooks, white actually has decent winning chances. He has more space. Black has some weaknesses on the dark squares, c5, c6, c5, and d6. And on top of that, almost all of white's pawns are on dark squares, making black's bishop on e8 useless because he cannot attack anything.
Hey, Jan.
So the endgame with two knights versus
Just a short. Yeah, before Wesley explained this position, as you can see, it's very. I spoke about that dynamic and static evaluation of this position, any position, with some differences. In this case, for some unexperienced eyes, that is not a big difference between bishop and knight, because we know that they are in fact similar strength right, the similar pieces, value pieces, but it's not in, especially in this type of position, it's not, every time one of these pieces has priority. So we have a static opinion about this position is completely better for white, because as you can see, all of our pieces takes the dark squares. So very, very important fact.
Mm.
They are just, how to say, like into the shadows for the this light square bishop, and he is pointless. Basically, he cannot find the target, and he's stuck behind his pawns. Also, the knight cannot change the situation, and at the end, at the end of all these struggles, white king is uh, closer to the center, very fast, can enter into the center, controlling the important squares. And I believe one of the worst nightmares for black is two dark squares. That is a d6 square and c5 dark square. That is after white trade one of his knights, that becomes some super base to land all of your pieces on d6 or c5. The main problem, bishop cannot affect on these squares, also cannot stop the king to enter into the center. Maybe later to break through that fortress on the queen side and enter with his king on d4, c5, maybe deeper on d6. All these maneuvers can't be stopped can be stopped by this light square bishop on e8. That is the crucial reason why white is completely winning, and this is really tough if you manage this type of position. It's really tough to lose this with the white pieces. You can play million moves, you can play 100 moves, your position will be, slightly better almost forever. So will you materialize that at the end and take full point, or will black play perfectly and make some unexpected draw? But anyway, you cannot lose this type of position. That pressure relief gives you opportunity to be even more creative, even more proactive to do something good for you in the future.
The good thing,
Yeah, but
Balint, is that you
he'll
think.
he'll explain something similar, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. So what I wanted to say is that I think it is so very nice of you to expect everyone to play on a level like you when you're saying it's not possible to lose this position. You don't know how easy that is. Okay, so we continue. Yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Knight and bishop is very much in the favor of two knights. So black is in some sort of strategic danger after this position. So Magnus realized that, and he played rook c8, immediately realizing that he's lost the fight for control over the d file, and he wants to keep a pair of rooks. I played knight e2, although perhaps f5 is stronger, just gaining more space. But I played knight e2, and here Magnus played bishop c6. I played knight b4. If instead of bishop c6, black takes on d2, then white is still better. Takes rook d2, bishop c6, and then knight c3. And white is still better here because he's got space advantage, and the white knight is coming to d4 next. Magnus played bishop c6, knight I couldn't really trade rooks here because if I took on d5, which would be a mistake, black takes on d5 with the bishop with check. Now white has moved the king away. And you don't want to give your opponent free time to activate these pieces. Here's bishop's very active and my king is attacked. So this would be very bad for white. So I played knight fd4, threatening knight c3, kicking away his rook from the outpost and attacking b5. Here Magnus desperately searched for counterplay and he played g5. If he played something slower, like let's say a6, white plays the move knight c3. And black is slowly but surely suffocating for lack of space. For instance, after rook d7, amongst others, white can take on c6. And yeah, here, for instance, in this position, the position is very sad for black. The knight's coming to c5 or to d6. And black is running out of necessary space for his pieces. This pawn on a5 and pawn on e5 is simply clamping his position way too much. So Magnus played g5. He's willing to sacrifice material just to get activity. Objectively, this move loses, but it does offer black practical chances of saving the game. Knight takes c6, rook d2, rook d2, knight c6. And here, in fact, white has a winning move, which we probably both missed.
Rook d7. Maybe. We see.
Yeah, in this position, white has a winning.
Yeah, you are just guessing, right? Playing that.
But I failed
that
to play.
moves in
So
front
the winning move in
to
this
see.
position is rook d7
Just
check.
pause the video and give the best move. But yeah, rook d7, rook c7.
I
Yeah,
of course didn't think of the rook c7. Yes.
rook c7 could be
But isn't it winning
defensive.
anyway? I mean, if he exchanges kings, he can just get the black pawns on the G and H file and then promote? Or is the knight fast
the
enough?
problem, the problem here at the end is g5 is not played by Magnus, is not played without idea. The idea of g5 move is to break that pawn chain f4 e5, and when you take on g5 with your f pawn, the pawn on e5 stays without protection, and the knight takes at the end on e5. Black knight takes on e5. That's the problem.
Okay, so Wesley is probably explaining why c7, d7 with the rook is tempting, but not the winning move. Let's see what he says.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, he'll explain. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's hear him.
Checking the king and threatening to take this this pawn on f7. If black plays king d8, then after rook takes f7, I don't think that he can survive in this position. For instance, after gf4, rook f6, white will start picking up all of black's strugglers, picking up all these isolated pawns, and white should win sooner or later. But the reason I didn't play rook d7 check is black would
also, Jan, I just have to say basically Wesley at this positions doesn't give you full variation. He is just lead you in
Yeah.
some path where that position lead. If he try to explain everything, that will be super long. Anyway, I believe White, as I said earlier, um, all the time we have initiative, we have that proactivity to do something something faster. We are hitting first. That's the point. If you uh, um, if you think about that, to not to play something else instead of rook d7, that is obviously in that case very big advantage because of the really bad knight. He can't make some progress, or we will stop him if he starts with some rotation. And also, if we have chances to change to trade that rooks, that is even better for us because we are that rule, trade change when you are winning, or in this case if that works for us because of space advantage. In any case, maybe just accelerate our options and possibilities to take advance on the queen side, because queen side, king side, because Carlsen played that how to say aggressive g5 move, radical and forced move, which brings some crossroads in this end game. So probably if it's easier after deeper calculation, if it's easier, okay, then rook d7, why not to trade the rooks? Obviously he cannot allow us to take that pawn on f7. The reasons are obvious, right? So just calculate, okay, rook d7, he needs to play rook c7 only move, and then let's see, is that winning for us, or is that even easier to get into this type of position, because our king is closer to the center, more space, more activities, and that g5, we need to consider what to do about that. Will we take with f pawn, pushing the h pawn, making some pass pawns? Anyway, other choices on us. That's the reason why these forced moves are attractive to be played. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah,
No,
let's see.
it's perfectly fine. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Let's go.
Protecting the f7 pawn. And then white has to trade rooks, king c7. And this position doesn't, this knight endgame doesn't look at all trivial to me. But in fact, white wins here. White wins by creating an outside pass pawn. So he plays fg5, h takes g5, and now very important move, h5, which is a really good move. In knight endgames, the mortal enemy of the knight is the outside pass rook's pawn. Because fighting against a rook's pawn, the knight doesn't have many squares to cover it. For instance, here after knight e5, h6, the knight is forced to defend against this rook's pawn, and he can't do anything else. I can't attack the rook's pawn. So after knight g6, now the black knight is distracted, and he just has to sit tight and defend against this pass pawn. And in fact, black is ahead in material here, but he's totally helpless. And after knight d4, attacking this pawn on b5, a6, and the simple move king c3. White is absolutely winning here. Black's forces are cut off. They're spread too thin, and black's position is cut into two. His pawns are way too slow. f5 is not possible here because e6 would be hanging, and the black king needs to travel a really long way just to capture this h pawn. And if the black king doesn't travel that way, there's no way.
And that's really nice to see, because that was my intuition when I said rook d7. Yeah, so I of course didn't deeply calculate, but it was just like, this looks promising, and it seems to have been correct. All right.
Yeah, like Wesley said that it's completely winning. You need to. He said one very important fact, that fortress is broken for black, so he cannot stop some deeper entrance with white king. Also, one very important fact in this position, Jan, is that knight is a beast. And he started to speak about that situation. What is a main problem about black position? So if you calculate some I don't know, between 5 and 7 options, you'll see that the main problem is black king cannot left this b5 pawn, because knight takes on b5, sacrifice the knight, and a6, a7, a8 is really fast. Also, if you push one of these pawns, f or e pawn, that is the big problem, because you are giving a hole on f5. Knight can enter on f5, and that is also the square for the king if you decide to make any rotation with your king. The big problem for black, knight is stuck there on g6, and as he mentioned, the king rotation is super long with this king d6, f8, e7, f8, g8, h7, long path. In meantime, white just need to centralize his knight again on d4 and strike black on the queen side on b5 with that a rabbit pawn on a6, a7, a8, very fast promotion. That is the reason why this position is hopeless for black. Also, as you can see, do not use that materialistic approach. We are a pawn down, and immediately oh no, we are a pawn down, and we are making some big noise and big problems in our head before we just start to count what is happening here. Obviously, that is central pawn down, and if we lose the h pawn, we are completely lost. Blah blah blah. We can get some of these ideas in our head if we are not counting, step by step, and if we don't see the basically how he can take our h pawn, how he can make some progress. As you can see, the pawn e can be pushed, the f pawn can be pushed, the king can be centralized. If you centralize him, for example, on e5, immediately transfer the black king on e5, instant strike knight b5 with a pawn promotion. So some blocks and some parameters doesn't allow any progress for black pieces, and that is the reason why this position is completely without hope for black.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. Thank you. And
Welcome, Jan.
what I found interesting like 10 minutes ago is, I'm not familiar with chess lingo, yeah, but I liked it when he said we have the black strugglers. He meant the pawns which were struggling, yeah. So just for me as a beginner, yeah, to mention them, like you say, the sniper for the bishops, and now weak pawns are the strugglers. I kind of like that. So okay, just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
For black to be able to double this this h pawn. And for instance, after g4, white plays knight b3, threatening to pick up this pawn on a6 and creating a another outside pass rook pawn in the process. So let's say black defends this rook pawn with king b7. White gives a check, knight c5. And then black has to play king a7 to defend his pawn. And now his forces are cut into two. His king is guarding the rook's pawn, while his knight is guarding the enemy rook's pawn, preventing him from promoting. So after h7, black is totally helpless, and the white king can slowly come up and pick up black's pawns slowly but surely. So black is totally helpless here, and it's very instructive to see, even being up a pawn, black's forces are cut into two, and he has no coordination whatsoever. But this is a very long line, but it's a very instructive endgame win. Rook d7 check, and after a trade rook take, and then creating a pass, an outside pass h pawn. I think it's a very instructive knight ending. But in the game I played knight c3. It's the second best move, but it gives black a good opportunity to save the game. So knight c3. Now I want to take the b5 pawn, and my knight also wants to jump to e4. So Magnus took on
I'm
f4.
sorry, Jan. We completely forgot about that options. White didn't play the move rook d7.
Yes, he didn't.
I told you that story. It's super long to calculate, and it is completely unnecessary to enter in something forced like that if you don't see the end of this line, and if you don't see how you will make any progress with your h pawn. So as you can see, Wesley just picked some safer path to bring his pieces into the center. He's not pushed to trade that rook, and obviously rook on d2 just according to logical picture is better than c8, right, or more purpose for him. So he picked that slower path, which is in bigger percentage, 80-90% better decision than something forced if you are not seeing the end up, the end situation, the last picture, as he showed that the king is completely stuck to protect a6 pawn, the knight is completely stuck to stop promotion, and we have a freedom with our king to pick all these pawns, delicious pawns, black pawns, and to win the game. Instead of that, of course, we are especially in time trouble. We can still keep that material, and in this case using that d6 vulnerable square or some active dynamic approach with against his king, coordinated with knight and rook. More pieces, of course, more options. You must be precise. You must be completely sure that trades and forced game will lead you in something winning for you. Otherwise, you'll enter in simple equal position, and then you'll ask yourself, oh, why I traded that rook? That was not forced and necessary decision at the beginning.
Because it looked nice.
Because that looks nice. In end games, I mentioned one of my students. You cannot tell that I have idea in end game. That is strange, You can have idea in the opening, in some middle game, because you have more options. This is the final stage, and this is the clear cut. You are a chirurg, and you must cut that, and you cannot repair after your cut. So if you trade, it's over. You said that the words like sword just cut that that position and lead you in something forced. At the end, if you pick the wrong path for that how to lead that, you'll end up in dead road and blind spot, equal position, or even war scenario. Oh, I'm lost. Why I do this? Why I force this one so deep, and at the end I lost all my advantage made during the game. So keep that tension, especially with the standard strategical ideas to when you are with more space. Keep your pieces active. Do not trade. Do not you know. Do not give that relief for the opponent, and stay strong and stay active as if you can, if it's possible. If you trade the rooks, all dynamics is gone, and you need to be sure that lead you into the winning position. Otherwise, that could end up with a draw or something with something bad. So I thought that he'll not play rook d7. So yeah, let's see how he won. And
Yeah.
even in this case, he's better, as he said, but this rook d7 lead him into in direct good way. So some shortcut to finish first in this race.
And Balint, what I found so super interesting while you were explaining, I remembered your commentary of my last classical game. You were speaking exactly about this issue, and it was like, Jan, if you're in the end game, it has to be calculation. It cannot be intuition. And I found myself here just intuitively thinking, well, d7 looks nice, just play it. And then also the second theme of my classical game was curiosity killed the cat. So when I play and I cannot calculate everything deeply, I'm still so curious that I like to see what happens, even if I think maybe this wouldn't work out. Yeah, so those are two.
Curiosity is a problem in endgames. So
Yes. So these are two key findings for me. Like always calculation for the end game, never intuition, and don't be too curious. Yeah. Okay. So I hope to remember that.
So
okay.
usually in the end games you have just one safe bet, one shortcut. You don't have several like in middle games or this one. So that is the reason why you are not. If you are not 100% sure, you do not touch, do not cut that piece of But after rook d7, you are on the crossroad. Rook c7, and will you go back and confess your stupid attempt, right, with rook d7, and you don't have nothing in your pocket, or you will just handle with that. Oh no, I will not push that. I will not force that. I will not put myself in that left or right situation. So I'm just hanging around, and I have more space, and maybe I can use that for my advantage in the future. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what was the Wesley choice.
Okay, let's see.
Knight takes b5. Threatening knight d6 check. I played king b8. The only way to defend against this threat. I played rook d7. Controlling a 7th rank and threatening to take this pawn f7. If knight e5, rook a7 wins for white. So I played a6, and then I played knight d6. Here, we're on move 37, so Magnus still needs 4 more moves before reaching the time control, before getting an extra 15 minutes. And here he made a blunder based on miscalculation. I believe he still has a few minutes here before reaching move 40. But he played knight d4 check, which is a blunder, and I'll explain why later. But instead of knight d4, black could have drawn if he took on e5, winning a pawn and gaining time by attacking the rook on d7. So I believe this is simple enough way to draw. Check, king a8, rook b6, rook c6. Black cannot allow me to get this 2 connected passed pawns, so he has to defend the pawn on a6. Takes, knight takes f7, and after the move h5, preventing me from capturing this pawn on h6. After the move h5, this pawn on h5 is very difficult to target, and black should have enough play to draw. For instance, after king c4, knight e7, king c5, knight f5, and so on and so forth. So after knight takes e5, I believe the game would end in a draw. But Magnus blundered. He played knight d4, check, trying to create counterplay on my king. But after king a4, it turns out that my king is super safe in this corner. And I think what he missed is that if he plays rook c2, threatening checkmate, white has the move rook d8, giving a check in return. And no matter where the king goes, black will lose material. For instance, if he goes to c7, there is rook c8 check, with trading the rooks with a winning endgame. Or if he plays king a7, white has the nice move knight c8 check, and probably this is what he missed. Check, king b7, rook takes d4, king takes c8, rook takes f4, and the rook ending is easily winning for white because all his pawns are vulnerable, and white will hunt them down one by one. So after king a4, unfortunately for black, white is suddenly easily winning. So Magnus avoided rook c2, played rook g8. I must also point out that rook c1 is met by the same idea, rook d8 and knight c8, followed by grabbing this knight on d4. So I played rook g8. I played knight takes f7, although there are other winning moves also. Knight f5, knight d6, and Magnus played knight takes h4. And we finally arrive to move 40. We got 15 extra minutes, but unfortunately black is just lost here. Instead of knight takes h4 on move 40, perhaps rook takes g2 is better.
And I like him for saying, and unfortunately black is lost here. I mean, he's playing versus black and should be happy, but he sees it from a very objective point of view.
Yeah, he's super objective about that position, and he's he of course understands that part. He could be a black side, and this struggles. He's feeling that struggles when you are pushing and giving your best during some period, 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours, and then you end up in lost position, and obviously you don't have any counter chances. So I don't know. You are your wound not healing, and you are just waiting something, but you know you are dying without some chances to survive. That happens with the black pieces, no counterplay. Rook and knight are so powerful. King is really close, and one or two pawns, A or B pawn, could be decisive weapon for white, and reason why this position is generally hopeless for black.
But I don't think that
Let's check
black
the
can
end
save this
of this game.
rook ending in either case. Rook f7, picking up one of the doubled f pawns, and hopefully this is enough to win. Magnus played knight h4, but here I had time to think, and the simplest way is to play for mating attack. Rook b7 check, king a8, and then rook b6, winning the pawn on a6, after which these two connected passers will win the game. And yeah, there is simply no way for black to save the game. And he could play king a7 here, seemingly defending this pawn on a6. But white has a variety of winning moves, and the easiest being is to play b5, threatening to take on a6 with check, and after a b5 check, knight b5, king a8, white plays a6. Threatening the mating motif, knight c7, followed by rook b7, checkmate. So white is totally winning here also. The game Magnus took on g6, but after rook a6 check and check, these two connected passers are just unstoppable. But I played king a8, and I played knight b5, threatening the same mating motif, a6, followed by knight c7 check, and then rook b7 mate. So Magnus played knight e3 with the idea to bring his knight over to the defense, d5, check. Yeah, it makes sense to gain time by giving checks, and also to give your black options to go wrong. For instance, if he goes to c8, then after a6, then there's no stopping this a pawn. But just don't run into triple repetition by giving check and king a8. So I played knight c7, king a7, rook takes e6, f3, rook f6, making sure that his pass pawns don't go anywhere. Knight g4, check, eliminating his pass pawn, and rook f5. And yeah, as I said many times, these connected passers will just save the day. They guard white's king from any checks from the side, and they're ready to push next move. Rook g5.
And here it's really interesting to me that Magnus was not giving up. I mean, he probably saw that he is in lost position, but he still kept playing on. And he's playing against Wesley So, who is supposedly not a bad player. So, yeah, to me, just very interesting that hope is still on the board until it's finished. Probably.
I mentioned that when you play your first game on Chess Dojo tournament, never give up.
Yep.
So Carlsen is one of the best player in history because of that uh, how to say, personality. His character is really tough to break, and his mental strength, like in some other sports like Djokovic story, or some guys who never give up from even in that is completely lost position. You must find that last hope, last chance to survive, and never give up. Literally, that epilogue in our head can't be known, and just do not think about that. Keep fighting, and that mentality lead you in some unexpected situation, and you can be surprised, and very positive surprise. So even if you lose 9 out of 10 games, if you save just one, that is enormous happiness. I think you are not enjoying so much if you win some winning position. I believe you are super happy when you save something completely lost. So that is the reason why you should everyone we should keep going with these positions, because who knows, and also you are building your mental strength, and the way how you need to think in literally every situation, without uh, excuse, I'm lost, or this is ugly, or I know I'm lost, but I will not. Do not think in that direction. You need to immediately cut off that virus from your head, because you will not find enough strength to properly fight during next period. So just ignore that. That not exist. Like
Yeah. So.
some mind cancer. I don't know how to explain that can poison us, and basically you are under pressure, you are playing and making decision in during next period, uh, just because of that pressure. You cannot be you cannot take that with your full power.
Yeah, I read something very interesting, and earlier on, I always thought if I'm lost, well, it's an insult to my opponent not to give up. But now I read that it is just an invitation for him to show off his excellent finishing skills. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
So,
and that helps
half
me. Mm.
half full, or half empty glass.
Mm.
That's the point. The point of view, it's on us. And if you take that loser style, then you will not save neither that one draw. If you have that winning mentality, maybe you're giving your opponent chance to show that excellent skills
Mm.
about how to realize this position.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
yeah,
this mind switch really helps me. Okay.
yeah,
Mm.
okay.
Uh, hoping for a knight endgame, but of course white doesn't have to trade rooks, so I gave a check. King b7. And instead of trading rooks, I decided to trade knights. Knight d6 and knight f7. Trading into a elementary 1 rook ending. Knight f7, rook f7. h5 and then b5 check. Finally this pawn start pushing. And black cannot take on b5 because after rook f6 check, black loses the rook. So Magnus resigned after b5. So this win was a very pleasing win for me, and I like the concept in the opening. We had non-standard French defense advanced variation. White got large advantage of the opening with his central control and control on the dark squares on d4 in particular and c5. But white made the mistake of going into an endgame and also taking on c4 with the queen, changing the pawn structure, was not a very good idea. And just when Magnus just about equalized and almost seized the initiative, he made the strategic mistake by playing b7, b5, taking away the b5 square away from his pieces and weakening his dark squares on c5. And that led to a difficult endgame for black, and was fortunate enough to win. So I hope you like this game, and thank you for watching it.
Yes, I liked the video, of course. So, and the full version of this course has 14 hours of video, which is of course really nice. But we are reviewing the free course, and the video is done. Here we have the written instruction from all that Wesley just told us, so we don't have to go through this for the chessable what's it called, mechanics, more or less. To tick this box off, we have to click on continue now. So this is done. My hourly goal on Chessable is to complete at least 1 hour. We just got that done, so continue. And now I think for the next variation, it either is another game, which I wouldn't do if it's a full game because of time. It's like 11 p.m. here, and I'm kind of starting to get tired. So I'm just, as I said earlier on, I'm curious again what happens if I click on next variation. It is out of the game, and we have to basically, this is a review from one of the positions in the game. I think it is. So black can't afford to take this pawn. It's white to play, and now
Yeah, he explained that one tactical test, the stream you are doing about the world, the match for the world title. Some practical situation why some roads are really bad for specific side. In this case, Magnus can, of course, he saw that easy pattern and the reason how he can be, why he cannot take that pawn, and the way how he can be punished.
Wasn't
Wesley
that
explained this.
Yeah, I think it was the checkmate position, right, with the knight
Yeah,
to
so
c7.
some checkmate patterns around the king, that
Yeah,
knight and
so it is knight to c7 check. He has to go out of the way. Only square is a7, and then we have a mate with the rook on b7. I believe that's
very nice purpose for the knight on c7. He protects the pawn, and pawn protects the rook, so that amazing connection brings us into the checkmate picture.
Congratulations, hard work pays off. You finished learning this chapter. Alrighty, Balint, then I think it is our turn to go into part 3 on another day. Let's check.
Exactly, maybe in 7 days.
Yeah, so it's all about intro to tactics then. Lots of tactics I see. There won't be a video, I think, because the free course has 1 hour and 9 or so, and we already have like 1 hour and 7, so that's all fine. So, to me this is really interesting, and of course, my understanding of Chess 960 Freestyle or Fischer Random is it's totally super different, everything. But to me it's not. My understanding now is you have to take care of the opening, of course, as there is no special opening.
Look at like this, Jan. You don't need to learn million openings. You doesn't know nothing, and it's plus. It's bigger plus for us, you know. Why to memorize some stuffs, you know? Just use your head from the beginning. Some plans, some general tips and facts instead of memorizing
Yes.
some strange, crazy, but of course
Hmm.
very effective variation give by computer. So
Yes. So I'm for sure I will dig
look
more
look at
into.
like plus, look at that like plus for our lazy
Mm,
opening learning
mm,
guys.
mm. Yeah, and basically that's exactly the reason why Magnus is now going into freestyle chess more instead of classical,
Mhm.
because he's just plain bored, or it's just too much wasted learning time, like memorization and
Ex-
everything. So,
Exactly, and
mm,
he need to memorize
mm,
to compare with
mm,
these young guns
mm,
under 20 with a lot of upcoming wonder kids. Basically, his chess experience and that investment in his investment in chess could be paid off in this variation,
mm,
Fischer Random Chess, and that experience, and as I mentioned in the beginning, structures, pawn structures, and what to do at the beginning could be paid for, from his knowledge from the past, from playing regular chess. Nowadays, if he wants to uh, go on the top, he needs to reactivate himself. As he said, that is very interesting story. He said he's better 3 years before.
mm,
3 years ago, he was the probably the best player in the world, because he was asked, does he have any idol, or someone, some role model for chess, and he said,
mm,
yes, I have. That was myself before
mm,
3 years ago. So yeah, he don't need to learn anymore some novelties in the opening. Chess 960 give us the fundamental knowledge and the beauty of that unknown chess, not computer chess, and not some deep variation from the opponent pocket.
mm,
He just needs to turn on his head and to make that decisions during the game. That is the reason why I expect this type variation of chess will be the very popular in the
mm.
future. And
Yes.
also,
Mm,
if we find some patterns or some models to solve this chess, standard chess, with some, as I said, some really tough programs or something to involve and find a solution for this variation of chess, we can immediately uh, start to play this
mhm.
Fischer random chess, and that is amazing. That is amazing fact in my opinion.